Welcome to another OU Insider Under the Visor Sooners podcast. My name is Brendan Drum. I'm here with Parker Thune, and we are at the Rivals 5-Star Challenge here in Jacksonville.
In the same place, together.
We're actually sitting next to each other. We're recording this in my room. Parker actually has a better view than me on the 12th floor. He's treated better. It is what it is. Anyways, it's been a fun few days here at Rivals. A lot of information we need to talk about. Not just with Rivals 5-Star, but there are several things going on in the world of Oklahoma recruiting that we will dive into. Since we last recorded, Parker, I think first and foremost, we are burying it. We need to talk about Jaden O'Neal, who committed on Monday. Oklahoma landed one of the top 2026 quarterbacks in the country, the number 63 overall player, according to Rivals.com, in the 2026 class.
That is a thing that happened.
It's a thing that happened, and he will be at the Future 50 starting 2 days from now. Will be on a Friday, I believe, is when it kicks off. Thursday or Friday of this week. We're recording this on a Wednesday night because we did not do the live. I'm gonna go out on a limb.
Go ahead.
Gonna say that he is probably gonna end up near the 5-star range when it's all said and done.
I think that would be a fair assessment.
Whether
Whether or not a guy ends up a 5-star is a matter of semantics, occasionally some politics, but Jaden O'Neal very objectively has the type of skill set that is 5-star-esque.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, you induced a little thumbs up bubble there, Brandon.
I mean, I'm not even doing anything. There it is again.
Yeah,
What is going on with the thumbs up?
And it's only you, too. It's not me.
I don't want to. I think when you say thumbs up, that's what it does.
Everybody that's only listening on the audio side instead of watching the YouTube right now has absolutely no idea what's going on.
Doesn't matter.
But yes, Jaden O'Neal committed. That was a big deal. And then the following day, C.J. Nixon committed to the University of Oklahoma.
I almost went blank there for a second. I was like, the following day, I'm like, something happened that I'm.
Something did happen. We had been awaiting it for so long that you almost kind of take it for granted. But C.J. Nixon is now officially on board with the illustrious University of Oklahoma, and he's going to play 2 sports.
Yes.
The plan is for him to play 2 sports. Whether or not he plays 2 sports is still to be determined.
Johnson to play 2 sports. The plan was for a bunch of people to play 2 sports and at multiple universities. Now, he has a roster spot with the University of Oklahoma. He has talked to the OU Sooners basketball staff. I actually did the interview for his commitment 10 days before he even announced, right?
It was a while.
Yeah, it was a long time. And so we had been prepared and we've been ready, much like the Jaden O'Neal thing. I actually recorded the Jaden O'Neal commitment video that you guys have probably seen on YouTube. The day that I did the Know Your Recruit, all he did was just put an OU shirt on and we just recorded it. So, and we can talk about how that all went down because I think that's quite interesting as it is. The C.J. Nixon deal happened while we were doing interviews at the Rivals 5-Star Media Day. So, like, we're preparing and trying to do, like, Amarian Robinson and
Christian Jones,
Jake Cruel. I'm just thinking of names.
Brenton Yancey.
Yeah, Booby Feaster. Bunch of guys that are here.
A dozen plus with heavy OU interest or, of course, in a couple cases, committed to the University of Oklahoma. Yeah. Marcus Harris showed up late.
Yeah, Marcus Harris was a late addition. We had actually been done. We went up to our rooms, and all of a sudden I get a text message, hey, Marcus Harris just arrived. Was a surprise addition to the Rivals 5-Star Challenge. A good surprise, and he did really well. Obviously, who else has been? Cortez Mills is here. Man, there's so many guys here.
It's hard to keep track of them all. Trent Wilson, another OU commit.
Yeah, I said that earlier. Yeah, he was good today, by the way. But we'll get into all that.
That's a grown man right there.
Serious human being. Also, very serious. I always tell him.
Put the thumb down. Put the thumb down. There you go. Wrap it. Wrap it like Tony Siragusa. May he rest in peace.
Okay. Wrap it like Nick Cannon should have. before he had 12 kids, right?
You and I were on very different wavelengths with regard to that euphemism,
Sorry.
if you will.
All right. I digress.
You do.
Anyways, what was I even? Oh, Jaden O'Neal. Oh, okay. Right. We were on Jaden O'Neal thing. So Jaden O'Neal, they've known for like a month and a half that they were going to the University of Oklahoma. As a matter of fact, they had given heavy, um, I guess, heavy implications towards the University of Oklahoma and the coaching staff shortly after they decided they were going to go on the tour. And so when they went on the tour, they had plans to go to a couple other places afterwards. It was Auburn, I believe, Michigan, Ohio State, Michigan State. Um, Trying to think of it. There's a couple of other. I think North Carolina was another that maybe they wanted to go to. But they had they had ideas of what they wanted to do, and we talked about on OU Insider VIP because they sent me their visit list and I posted it up for you all that are VIP members. And I got to tell you, it when I talked to the dad, and the dad was like, "Yeah, we're just going to show everybody that we're the best," and Jaden said the same thing. I'm just gonna show everybody I'm better than everybody. That's kind of what I came out to do is make them want me more, and he was successful in that endeavor. But when they got to Ohio State following the OU visit that they spent 4 days at, mind you, they were burnt. And at that point, they decided, what are we doing? Why are we taking all these trips at this point? We know where we're going. We've known where we're going. I think it was fun showing everybody how good he was at all those camps to begin with. And then it became kind of a burden to them, particularly after the OU visit, that they just hopped on a plane the very next day, told Ohio State, told Michigan State thank you, and flew back home. And so, I mean, that to me was kind of the first for the OU fan base, right? Like, I think OU fans knew Oklahoma was in a really good spot, particularly when he showed up to Texas wearing all that stuff, all the OU gear. and it kind of upset the Texas staff.
He's like posting about the Miami visit with a photo
Yeah.
of his backpack that's all OU.
And an OU neck pillow, right? Like,
It was a very open
it was
secret at a
very
certain point.
open secret at that point. And so they decided, let's just get it over with. When I was doing the Know Your Recruit with them, I had no clue they were going to commit like right after we got done with it. And his dad, Jaron, leans into the frame of the video and says, after we got done obviously recording, says, you just want to go ahead and record the commit video because we're going to announce on Monday. We're done with this. I was like, sure. So that's why we got about that. But Seth Luttrell, man, he's doing a phenomenal job because not only does he have Jaden O'Neal, he's got Kevin Sperry, and he's got potentially 2027 quarterback and potential 5-star 2027 quarterback Peyton Houston kind of in his pocket at this point. Like, if he wants to go that route,
it feels really early to be this confident in who Oklahoma's quarterback is going to be in the class of 2027 when we've yet to even wrap up the class of 2025 or come close to wrapping up the class of 2025. But Brandon, I think we both have a great deal of confidence that OU's guy in the 2027 class is going to be Peyton Houston.
They love him.
To the point where I would frankly be surprised if they offered any more quarterbacks in the 2027 class if things continue to progress along their current trajectory.
I kind of agree with that. I think they'll offer a few more just because you need to have, like, you never know what's going to happen, right? You need to have some sort of plan in place, if player A decides they want to go a different direction after taking a visit somewhere. But you and I have both talked to Peyton, we've talked to the dad, and I mean, the kid showed up last year without an OU offer as an eighth grader and decided, and not just showed up, he showed up and showed out, and then decided, you know what, I'm going to come back and I'm going to try to earn that offer. He knew he was going to get the offer when he showed back up, but not only did he show up and get the offer, he showed out at the OU. Like, it's hard to explain how good Peyton Houston and Jaden O'Neal were at the camp. It is. It's hard to explain. They were both really really good, and I think I'd be remiss if I didn't say Sperry in the three that he was at was very very good. Made a lot of throws that you just are in awe at. Particularly his deep ball has gotten so much better. Like it's been, he may have the best deep ball in the 25 class. I mean I think that's an arguable stance. And so, um, I they're going to be in good shape at quarterback. Shocker. Oklahoma's going to be really good at quarterback for the next 8 years. Surprise!
Yeah. Well, and and this kind of crosses over. This isn't the exact conversation that we're in the midst of right now, but I think it's a parallel. Max Granville obviously committed to Penn State earlier this week. The 4-star edge rusher from Fort Bend Christian Academy in Houston committed to Penn State fresh off an official visit to Oklahoma. And the thought with so many Sooner fans on message boards and on Twitter and elsewhere was, oh, well, Penn State must have just bought him.
No.
But no, when you look at what Penn State does defensively and some of the success that they've had producing first-round NFL draft picks like Micah Parsons and Odafe Owe and Chop Robinson in recent years, you come to understand, no, Penn State, if you're an edge rusher, is one of the most prestigious schools in the country. And you look upon it the same way that many prep quarterbacks these days look at the University of Oklahoma. And the rejoinder to that comment was, well, but from the fans, I should say, was, well, but it's not the same coaches that were on staff for Micah Parsons and Odafe and all those guys. Mm-hmm. That's true, but how long has Seth Luttrell been the offensive coordinator at the University of Oklahoma?
Yeah.
All of 6 months. At a certain point, you do it enough, you establish enough of a lineage and a tradition of development at a specific position, it becomes more about the school than it does about the individual. And I think to Seth Luttrell's credit, he comes in with plenty of qualifications. He comes in with high expectations for what his offense is going to be able to do in the SEC. But Oklahoma, as an institution, has enabled him to have a very easy life, at least for these first couple of years, in recruiting quarterbacks, because every single quarterback right now, Brandon, that's 15, 16, 17 years old, all they've ever known is the highest degree of excellence at the University of Oklahoma as far as quarterback play. And that's why there was a feeding frenzy in the 2026 class. That's why Darion Coleman ended up on the outside looking in, is because dudes are flocking. Dudes are flocking to play quarterback at Oklahoma, because it really hasn't mattered who the offensive coordinator has been or who the head coach has been or who the receivers have been for a quarter century now. Mm-hmm. Almost without exception, every single quarterback that has gone under center as a long-term starter at the University of Oklahoma has had tremendous success. Mm-hmm. And that matters to kids. They want to be a part of something great, and they look at Oklahoma's lineage of quarterbacks over the years as something great.
And the majority had more than a cup of coffee in the NFL as well. So, I mean, you look at that and you go, okay, that's where I want to go. And it makes complete sense. But then when you look at the Max Granville situation, it was a tough blow for Miguel Chavis and company. I think, they anybody that wants to throw shade at Coach Chavis is they're throwing it in the wrong direction, because he did everything right to put Oklahoma in that position, because for the longest time, and wrongfully so, everybody thought, oh, Texas A&M, Texas A&M, Texas A&M. It wasn't until I talked to a source probably a week and a half before he made the decision, and I had called Parker, and I said, Parker, I think it's Oklahoma and Penn State. And that was still, it was hard for me to wrap my head around, and it was hard for him to wrap his head around, because it was Texas A&M, Texas A&M, Texas A&M forever. But the source said exactly what was correct. culturally, Penn State and Oklahoma fit Granville. You have to get past all the friends with that he had going there, and a couple of them were here at the Rivals 5 star, and even they thought they were like, well, we were told that it was A&M and Penn State, and they were wrong on that, and so it sometimes sometimes perception isn't reality, and that's in Granville's case, that's exactly what it was. But like Parker said, you can't blame a kid for going to Penn State as an edge rusher. Like,
Yeah,
are
and
you kidding me?
I'll say this too, and this isn't exclusive to you and I, Brandon, but we certainly feel it. The entire business of covering recruiting and even to a greater degree following recruiting is so much harder now than it ever has been before because separating fact from fiction is tougher than it's ever been before because with so much money on the table for some of these kids, there is, in many folks' eyes, more incentive to misrepresent the truth
Correct.
than ever before.
Brand
So,
building.
yeah, and that's why even when you feel pretty certain of something, and I can think of several instances already this cycle where that's happened, you end up having second thoughts that you probably wouldn't have had 2 or 3 years ago.
I can think of one right now, and it's with the 5 star offensive lineman that
Big time.
Oklahoma's in play with.
Big
And
time.
if you want to believe the people we talked to that know said 5 star, and I've talked to said 5 star quite a bit, and we'll just say Michael Fasusi, 5 star offensive lineman. After I interviewed him and talked to him, Parker, what did I call him? I say, I said, I think Oklahoma's in better shape than I thought it was in, right? Like this was June 16th. I know the date because it was right after his OV. And I had literally just got done eating Father's Day dinner with my family. And when I talked to him, you just got a vibe about Fasusi in Oklahoma. Now he's taken an OV to Texas since then on the 21st. And you're still getting from people Oklahoma vibes. That is the weirdest thing ever because, and this is where Parker and I sit here and we go,
You're not used to this, right?
yeah,
Like this doesn't seem to track with actual reality. What you've come to expect, no matter how diehard of a fan you are, no matter how thick your crimson colored glasses, I think you've kind of come to expect based on the early stages of the NIL era and how things have unfolded with some elite recruits, especially on the offensive line, you've come to expect that that's a guy Oklahoma will make a run at, but in the end can't have because the asking price will be too high.
now
Dominic Williams reshaped a lot of
that's
perceptions.
where I was about to go. Now, since Dominic Williams took place, everybody, your mind's a little different. That still doesn't change where our head's at here because Texas has to have Michael Fasusi. If they don't have Michael Fasusi, they have nothing. And you can't say Lamont Rogers, because I'm going to sit here and tell you, Lamont Rogers is not going to Texas. He's not going to Texas.
And
if I'm wrong on that, I'll come here and say, dude, I'm so wrong. I'm sorry. He's not going to Texas. Like I would be. Am I too bold in my statement with that?
I think there's a 0% chance Lamont
There you
Rogers
go.
goes to Texas. There, and I'll eat my words if I end up being incorrect. I think that's an OU Missouri battle and has been for a while. Now, Texas has got to have Fasusi for multiple reasons, right, Brandon? Because on the one hand, they don't really have a viable backup plan as to who you then can go and pursue to be your left tackle in the 2025
Correct.
class. And on the heels of the Dominic Williams saga, where Oklahoma won what everybody knew was an NIL battle to get the kid. You know, if you take 2 straight losses to Oklahoma in recruitments that were heavily influenced, if not outright decided by NIL, because obviously there's going to be a very, very high price paid for Fasusi.
But I guess to your point, is Fasusi going to be heavily influenced to the point that a decision is going to be strictly made due to the amount of money? And I don't know that I can buy that because of what I know from
No, I'm not necessarily
Yeah.
saying he goes to the highest bidder. But what I am saying is
I think
you're
that's
going to have to pay up for this
Yes,
kid,
you are.
right?
Yes,
With
you are.
as with any 5-star offensive tackle, you're going to have to pay up for this kid, and everybody realizes this.
Mhm.
And so for this reason, if you don't get Fasusi, Texas fans are going to look at what happened with Dominic Williams, and they're going to look at what happened with Fasusi, and
What
they're
the hell,
going
man?
to that's going to be their reaction, and then they're going to go log into Twitter, and their mentions are going to be a war zone because OU fans are going to be taking a victory lap and a half
Yeah.
over the Fasusi saga if Oklahoma comes out on top.
And what makes this even more intriguing is Sean Hutton, his very dear friend and fellow teammate at Louisville, just committed to Oklahoma as a preferred walk on. And Sean Hutton is a highly coveted preferred walk on, one that Texas was trying ferociously to get to join them. And
OU legacy, though.
he is an OU legacy, and it worked in Oklahoma's favor in this aspect. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. It did in this aspect. He is now an Oklahoma Sooner. He committed today before we actually got on here and recorded this by about 6 or 7 hours. But um, I'll I'll say this: if they somehow pull off Lamont Rogers and Sean Hutton, because Rogers and Fasusi are also very, very, very close friends, things get a little interesting because most people, Parker, myself, anybody you talk to, feels like there's zero chance that I don't want to say zero, zero's too much. There is a 20% chance, 25% chance that somebody gets both or two of the 5-star offensive tackles, whether it be Babalola and Rogers, whether it be Rogers and Fasusi, Babalola and Fasusi, like the whatever combination it is, the percentage is not very high, right? Like, and they already missed on one, so now you only got 3 left on the board, and of those 3, you feel probably most confident with Mont Rogers. But where things stand with Babalola and Fasusi have gotten so interesting that you're kind of questioning. I question myself now, and my thought. I will say this: if Babalola is the one that chooses Oklahoma, you're not getting Rogers and Fasusi. I think
Mm.
I think you had to get one of those two.
You can't have 3 left
Man, I
tackles.
didn't do a thumb.
You can't have 3 left tackles in the same class.
No, no,
You could
I'm
have
not,
2.
no. I'm saying
No, but
2.
no,
You
no.
don't get if you get Babalola, those other 2 are
Yes,
not
and I'm saying that to
because
your
of
point.
yeah.
To your point, you can't have 3 left tackles in the same class. That's just not realistic. So if you get Babalola, yeah, you're only getting one of the other 2.
Well, no, I don't think
What's
you get any of the other 2. Is my point.
Oh, so you don't think Rogers or Fasusi winds up
Correct.
a Sooner if Babalola
Correct.
wants
That
to
is
go?
my gut. That's my gut. And man, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Great, good for Oklahoma. But to me, it just feels like those 2 want to play with each other. Like they want to play alongside each other. It's been talked
So
about.
who plays guard?
Well, you have Foj. They can play guard.
No, between Rogers and Fasusi.
You just have one at right tackle, one at left tackle.
Okay. I'll allow it.
That's what I would do. I'm just saying. And they're both really, really good. This is gonna be interesting. It's gonna be so much fun to watch and pay attention to down the line. That's all I gotta say about that. I mean, it is.
Let me tell you, man, Bill Bedenbaugh's got a lot of bowling pins in the air because
does.
speaking of guards, we are
Real quick before you turn the page, because I know where you're going here. I don't want to leave it. Regarding Lamont Rogers, I think a decision could be coming sooner rather than later.
pun intended.
No. I thought about that before I even said it, and then you had to throw it out there in the ether. I appreciate you. No pun intended. I'm
Okay.
just saying that I think he's closer to a decision than people believe.
A week, 2 weeks, a month?
What is today? We're on the 26th. If he hasn't decided by July 10th, and I'm probably being very generous with that date, I'm giving myself a little bit of time there. I'm just throwing that out there. I will be surprised.
Okay. Now, again, on the topic of guards and on the topic of announcement dates, Darius Afalava commits tomorrow, the 28th. Oklahoma is battling Utah down the stretch for Afalava's commitment. Now, as of Wednesday night, as we sit here recording this podcast, nobody knows whether it's going to be Oklahoma or whether it's going to be Utah. Afalava himself does not know whether it's going to be Oklahoma or Utah. This is a decision he's processing with his family, and there will be an announcement one way or another, either in favor of the Sooners or in favor of the Utes on June 28th. But amidst all the craziness of the tackles that Oklahoma is pursuing, Haywood's out of the picture at this point, but you have Rogers, you have Jesus, you have Babalola. You have a top 250 player who's technically categorized as an offensive tackle right now. He's going to play guard in college, at least if he comes to the University of Oklahoma. But amidst it all, very quietly, it seems like you have Oklahoma in good position to potentially land a top 250 talent and the number one player in the state of Utah. Now, I might have a better feeling on this in the next 24 hours, Brandon. Right now, not sure. Feels like a bit of a toss up between the Sooners and the Utes.
Yeah.
And there's confidence from the OU side. Well, I would say optimism. Oh, I got a thumbs up bubble this time.
We are just thumbs up in the crap out of this video.
You need to fix your Zoom settings, man. I don't know how this keeps happening.
I have no idea how this happens either.
Regardless, I know there is optimism on the OU side and talking with some sources this evening, but I wouldn't say there is confidence. And You can cite a number of different recruitments in the past that have come down to one school and another school in the final hours, and this is kind of how things go.
But it's going to piss OU
If
fans off. They lose to Utah of all.
No, it
places.
will.
Yeah.
It absolutely will. The thing to understand with Afalava is he's got 4 younger brothers, and he's obviously there in the state of Utah. So if he wants to stay close to home, you get it, right? You're not going to like it, but you get it. Nevertheless, Oklahoma has done an amazing job of even putting themselves in position to potentially get this kid, given that they didn't offer him Brandon until the spring game back on April 20th.
Which is amazing.
They have been in this recruitment for 2 months.
Yep.
And they're right there with the in-state school for Darius Afalava's commitment.
And now people are going to say, with that information you've just thrown out there, which is it's known information, that's public information, that's nothing insider or anything like that. People are going to go, okay, well, why did it take so long? Like, why did Beatonbow wait so long? That is why they're not going to win it if they lose it here, right? Like, that's because they weren't. No, that has nothing to do with it. The fact of the matter is, Oklahoma was going to be in the top 2, whether they offered a year ago or in April, and the relationship, because it doesn't change the logistics. Like, location is location, right? Like, where Utah is at is in Salt Lake City, and where the University of Oklahoma is at is in Norman, Oklahoma. That doesn't change, which makes it a logistical deal for his family. And I think you said it best earlier, where like, if they sit down and they talk about it, right? And they go, okay, well, if you really want to play out of state and that's the only thing, that's kind of a small piece to want to make a decision off of, right? That's very trivial. You can just go ahead and go to Utah then, and you'll get over the fact that you're not playing out of state because you get to see your family. And that could be how this plays out. But we're not going to know until he finally makes a decision, and it sounds like he's stressing pretty hard about it. So I'm interested to see where Afalava goes. It would be a great pickup for Oklahoma. I think you would feel really, if you can close out with Afalava and just land one of those 3 offensive tackles, that is an elite offensive line haul. Again, back to back, big time classes for Bill Beatonbow, because obviously you had the 5-star in EPL according to Rivals last year, right? Eddie Pierre-Louis.
Yeah.
You had and you had Brooks, right, who ended up being a superstar at the Under Armour camp, have come in and could be in the rotation at OU. You ended up with Sosa. You ended up with, trying to think, to help me out here,
Isaiah Autry and Daniel
Isaiah Autry.
Akinkumi.
Daniel Akinkumi. So like that would be back to back just stellar classes.
Yeah.
For
And
Bill Beatonbow.
and you know,
still would be, even if they miss on Afalava and they get an offensive tackle there or 2, that's still stellar classes.
and here's the thing. We talked a lot about Ryan Foje and what a gem Bill Beatonbow found in Foje. I don't know if we talk enough about Owen Hollenbeck. He's going to be a stud too.
Yeah, he's a mauler, dude. Like, he is a Bill Beatonbow throwback offensive lineman. If there ever was, he's Ben Powers is what he is.
Bingo.
And that isn't like, oh, that's racist. You're just comparing them because they're white. No, if you go watch them play, you're not going to be like, with their body structure, you're not going to be like overly like, oh my God, look at their bodies, like, look, they're not going to jump off with their length, with their frames, right? Like, that's never going to be who they are. But what you are going to see is they're whooping somebody's butt every time and just completely mauling the crap out of them. And that's essentially what made Ben Powers, and will eventually make Owen Hollenbeck when he gets to Oklahoma. So I like what he's done already with the 2 that he's brought in, because I think they're 2 very underrated, and I think Foje is going to continue to skyrocket in the rankings. I think there's a world where Owen Hollenbeck is a fringe 4-star at the end of the cycle. So, I mean, we'll see how it plays out. Now, speaking of other 4 stars and other players that Oklahoma is in on and or has committed. We're here at the Rivals 5-Star Challenge. If I was to name one guy that really stood out to you, I know who you're going to say, and he's in the 26 class. I agree with you on that. But the other one would be the defensive MVP, defensive back MVP of the combine or of the showcase that is the Rivals 5-Star Challenge, and that is Amarian Robinson. Man came out and took care of business.
He's a baller, man.
Holy crap. I don't think he lost, but he lost 1 rep, and I think that was kind of he just didn't raise his hand up. He was right. If all he had to do is put his hands up and he intercepts the ball because he was right there. He ran the route for the wide receiver on a corner route, and it was like a post corner, and he ran it for him. And his closing and his footwork is elite. It's elite. He's not the biggest. He is taller than Billy Bowman, right? Billy Bowman's a good 5'10", 5'11". Amarian Robinson's 6 foot, 6'1", maybe.
He's 6 foot.
Yeah.
I'll put him at 6 foot.
Yeah. And that's why I said maybe 6'1". He's shorter than I am. And so, dude, just the way he recovers, and if you watch his film and you kind of you piece everything together with what he did out here and you watch his film, he's a very underrated cover. Like, he can play corner and be a really good corner if he wanted to be. But the problem is he comes down and he does a run fit, and he just takes your head off. And so he was so impressive, so impressive at this camp or at this combine showcase, whatever you want to call it. That he's what, around 111, 114 with us right now, something like that. What's his ranking? You know?
I think it's 118.
118.
If I'm not mistaken.
I won't be shocked if he moves in the top 75 or at least the top 100 with us. I think that's probably the right move for him. If Oklahoma can land another safety, if Brandon Hall pulls this thing off, what?
It'll make the Jonah Williams deal sting a lot less. Make it sting a lot.
That room is stupid, dude. That room is stupid. That room is so stupid. So is the thumbs up. I mean, you got Boganowski, who everybody thinks is going to be just he's becoming a superstar. Reggie Powers the third. Obviously, you got Billy Bowman. You got Peyton Bowen. You got Jayden Hardy, who was a top 75 player overall with Rivals last year. You have, who else am I missing here? RSA, Robert Spears Jennings. Are you kidding me? Like, all of these guys were top 250 kids. What is Brandon Hall doing? He's creating a freaking monster of a
He's recruiting his tail off is what he's doing.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, man, other standouts from the day, I know who you think I was going to reference first, and that's why I will reference him first. Jake Kruel, the 4-star edge rusher out of IMG Academy. He's not very big, like at all, which I think makes...
He's like 6'3", but he's skinny.
I don't even know if he's 6'3", man. I would put him at 6'2". I think that's what makes me love his game so much more is he does not look like a dominant edge rusher. Like, if you walked into the camp and you were asked to identify, okay, like, who's the dude that's going to come out here and just cook everybody off the edge like his hair is on fire today, you would not have pointed out Jake Kruel.
Mm-hmm.
But, man, nobody can touch that kid because he is legitimately... And I've watched a lot of football in camp environments over the years. And obviously it translates to the gridiron to some extent. I haven't done a deep dive on his film, but he's at IMG for a reason. And he's got 44 scholarship offers for a reason as a rising junior, mind you. But in a camp environment, he might be the angriest player I've ever seen. Like,
he's feisty, dude. Like,
oh man,
he takes.
There is no word to use but angry. As soon as he blows out of that 3 or 4 point stance, whatever he's in, he's coming at you angry, man.
He's telling you about it too.
Yep. and an angry dude like that, just a freaking psycho off the edge, that's exactly the type of dude that's going to have success at any level. Because I think, as you saw with Nick Bonito at Oklahoma, right? Nick Bonito wasn't anything special in terms of his physique. He was 6'2", maybe 6'3", 230 pounds. But boy, could he get after the quarterback. And I see a lot of the same traits in Jake Cruel.
There's another player at Oklahoma that's probably going to have a very similar outcome this year, if you know who we're talking about.
And in watching him, I was
Yep.
like, yep, this is, if there is a comp for him on the OU roster right now, it's definitely R. Mason Thomas.
so.
Because you watch R. Mason Thomas's high school tape, it's the same thing, man. He was playing at like 208 at that point.
You watch his Arizona film last year, right?
And he's just coming off the edge like his hair's on fire. And that's what made me fall in love with him, even late in the 2022 cycle when OU started pushing to flip him from Iowa State. I think I might have been the OG R. Mason Thomas protagonist.
You were.
Protagonist is not the right word. I founded the fan club.
For the president.
Yeah.
President
And I'm gonna enjoy watching that stock soar this fall, no question about that. But yeah, really, really liked Jake Cruel's game, and OU's very legitimately in play for him. It's going to be a tough pull, as it is for any kid that grows up in SEC territory when you got Alabama and Georgia and Florida State, all those schools involved. But he's been on campus multiple times. He's going to be back this fall. He acknowledged that much, is he's going to be back at Oklahoma for a game day. So that's something. That's one we'll be keeping an eye on. And then Trenton Yancey. Man, beyond the obvious, we'll talk about Cortez Mills. We'll talk about Marcus Harris. Obviously, we hit Amarian Robinson. We'll talk about some of the OU guys in just a second. But Trenton Yancey, out of the class of 2027, he was one of two 2027 dudes that got an invite to the 5-star. It was him and Boobie Feaster, which, if you know anything about Boobie Feaster, he's been that dude since he was in 7th grade. He was getting Power 4 offers in the 7th grade. So that dude's always been a freak. He's probably going to reclassify to 2026. Trenton Yancey is a true 2027 and a stud from Arlington Lamar. He was outstanding today. And look, Brandon, it's a long way to the finish line, so there's no way of telling if it holds. But I like OU in his recruitment right now because he likes Emmett Jones a lot.
Another guy is Bowie Feaster, 2027. Probably going to reclassify to 2026 if I was to guess. That's just me guessing. I mean, there's buzz on that. I guess I guess would be guessing and just guessing off the buzz. He's from DeSoto. So the thing about that is he's from DeSoto. And OU and DeSoto.
OU doesn't get DeSoto kids. Doesn't happen.
I think Brian Jackson was the last one, if I remember correctly, that they got.
That's what, like class of 09 or something like that?
No, that was class of like 06. Yeah. But it's been a minute. They probably had another since then. I just can't remember off the top of my head. That said, Emmett Jones.
If anybody can crack DeSoto.
It's not just that, but there's a reason for that. Yes, that is correct. If anybody can do it, it's Emmett Jones. But he was a head coach at South Oak Cliff. We call it SOC, S-O-C. During that time that he was the head coach, Boobie Feaster's uncle was the principal there.
Oh, little family connection.
So there was a deep family connection that Boobie Feaster has known Emmett Jones for a long time, to the point that, yes, he is going to visit Oklahoma for like the 20th time. He already came down earlier this summer. He came down during the spring a couple times. He will be back again at the end of July. Oklahoma and Boobie Feaster are a thing. And Texas feels like that's where that's going to head, right? Like, because a lot of people are like, well, Boobie doesn't really fit Oklahoma personality-wise. Well, Jaden Gibson is out there, right? Like, he's very vibrant. Very
wide receivers in general are out there.
Correct. Like, you don't need.
It's a meme. It's a stereotype.
They're not going to be Brent Venables type players. Period. They're just not. They're out there. Cornerbacks are out there. You probably need those guys to be a little bit different to be successful. So you're willing to put up with that type of stuff because it usually makes your team better at those two positions. Visor's personality, right? Like he was it's a great personality, and I we watched him this weekend, and or this week, and he was really really good. I think the one guy that I was actually like, and I hate to say this just because he's not going to go to Oklahoma now, and he wanted to. I'll tell you that much. He wanted to, but um, if I were Andrew Marsh, was so good today, so good, almost uncoverable.
And he usually is in these settings.
He is in these settings, and so you look at that and you're like, man, that's rough. But I still think the receivers that Emmett Jones has gotten committed, and another that they may end up with,
How do you feel about Cortez Mills right now?
pretty good,
I do too.
pretty good.
I do too.
And I mean, being recruited quite heavily. Um, have we talked about Amarian Robinson yet?
Yes.
Did we talk about his July 6th? We didn't talk about that, but we'll talk about that.
We have, well, he's committing on July
Yeah,
6th.
yeah, July 6th. That just reminded me because Cortez is doing July 1st, I think, right? Is he?
I don't think
know.
that's been announced yet, but that's, yes,
No,
that's the
no.
plan.
I didn't know if that was the thing. Like, has it been
Okay, well,
said?
yes, that's the thing.
Okay, so he told me that, but he didn't say it wasn't announced yet. So, okay.
He was supposed to announce it on June 24th. So,
Yeah, that's 3 days ago. So,
yeah.
I mean,
So, if
oops. I apologize.
if we jumped the gun on that, oh well.
That's my bad because I thought it was already out there because everybody else knew about it. So, I mean, he told me about it, and everybody at this place knew about it. So I guess he was just going to go ahead and just throw it out there whenever he wanted to. But I expect it to be July 1st, I guess, is the best way to put it. So, is what it is at this point.
All right, it's OU and it's Clemson for
Yep.
Cortez Mills. LSU's making a late run here.
They are.
I don't know that it's going to be enough. I think this probably comes down to the Sooners and the Clemson Tigers as opposed to the Baton Rouge Tigers.
Yeah, he did call LSU
Wide receiver U,
wide receiver U.
which it is,
Yeah,
to be fair.
and he does have a really close relationship with Coach Hankton. So, I mean, there's that. It does feel like it's Brent Venables versus Dabo on this, right?
And there's a reason Clemson and
Culturally,
OU.
yeah.
Like, there's a reason Clemson and OU make the most sense for Cortez Mills. It's because they fit what he's looking for.
I think
Man,
it's
like,
gonna be Oklahoma. That's just my gut. I have no we haven't been told that. So I mean, that's
you
just my
think
gut.
you think Brent Venables and Dabo Sweeney have a double tithe at Wellspring Church riding on this outcome?
I mean, you can make those jokes now during NIL because it doesn't matter. But oh, usually things just kind of sprung up when it came to Clemson back in the day, right?
You could say that.
Okay. Moving on. With the, but yeah, Marion Robinson, real quickly. Yes, July 6th, Oregon, Oklahoma, Arkansas. It's more Oklahoma and Oregon than anything else. I think there are family dynamics to that I'm not diving into. That said, whenever he does commit, he and I have actually talked about it. It doesn't matter who he commits to. I want to tell his story. I want to have him on and tell his story. It's hard, man, to even just.
That's a powerful story.
It's a powerful story. And I think everybody needs to hear it, no matter what happens. He is what he's come through, and you hear it in my voice, like I just kind of get emotional talking about what that dude has gone through. Is you got to give it up to him, and not just that. There's other things that are happening in his life, or that have happened in his life here in the last year or so, that you cheer for this kid. You're going to cheer for this kid no matter where he goes, and we'll talk about that after he announces to either Oregon or Oklahoma. No matter
Watch
where
him
he
be a
goes.
Razorback. Watch him be a Razorback. Sam Pittman's going to dunk
But see,
on you and Lanning and Brent
but he's already
Venables
put
and
it out that
everyone.
put it out
And
that it's
then he's
Oregon
going to
and Oklahoma.
celebrate with a cold
He's
beer.
already put it out that it's basically Oregon and Oklahoma. So if that happens, he will be surprising himself at this point on June 26th. I promise you that. So, but that wouldn't shock me. I mean, Walmart might show up, and uh, is it JB Hunt? Is the trucking company, and what's the other company that's up there? You got Walmart and JB Hunt, and there's another big company. Oh, Tyson's Chicken. You never know. Tyson's Food may prop in and throw some extra chain, chang in there, and some money at him. Who knows? Joking, but serious at the same time. So I will say this: Oklahoma NIL has been doing a very, very strong push for not just Amarian Robinson, but for several others. Like in head to heads, Parker, that you and I both thought Oklahoma would trail, they most certainly have not.
No.
I think the one Oklahoma thing, which we need to discuss. So I think this is a good little segue right into this, right? The one Oklahoma announcement that we announced on OU Insider before it even got out there, or hinted towards it that it was going to be announced, right? We didn't announce it, but we said, look, there's going to be a big announcement tomorrow, NIL. Just wait for it. I think this is a huge move because it's in house, right? Particularly in house.
Well, moving in that direction.
That direction in house. You still keep almost everybody except for one big piece of the NIL, as far as the employees go, I guess, or the people that help you. This allows Curtis Lofton to be a much heavier figure in the NIL talks. I love this move, and I think since they started discussing this back during the Dominique Williams recruitment is when this started to actually really come into fruition, right? I got to tell you, everything is kind of moving trajectory upward as far as Oklahoma goes NIL because I think donors are now starting to believe in it. And the crazy part is it sounded like for the longest time they were going to put to bed the new facilities, but birdies are telling me that that thing is still alive and maybe more alive than people think. And I'll leave it at that for right now, but it's very alive, the facilities, but the NIL part.
Yeah, well, and
Crazy.
I think what helps with the investment, or I should say the willingness to invest from the donor side, is that people believe in the leader. People believe in Brent Venables. Right? I think it's a tougher thing, and it would be a tougher thing when you have like the classic example is Texas A&M, right? The classic example is Texas A&M with Jimbo Fisher because all Jimbo Fisher wanted to do was buy talent. And if you have a coach at the helm that just wants to buy talent, at a certain point, donors are going to get fed up if they're not seeing results. Correct. When NIL isn't the centerpiece of the puzzle, and you're actually trying to develop young men, and you have established the soul mission, which so many recruits and parents have been impressed with and really taken emotionally by. When you have other aspects of the OU program that appeal to student athletes and that are designed to enhance the lives of student athletes, make them better people, not just better football players, then there's going to be more of a willingness to chip into the NIL efforts because they can see that it's not a transactional deal. You're not developing a transactional program. What you're doing is you're sewing into these kids for more than what they are as football players. And you're not just trying to, because when you buy talent, what you're trying to do is buy wins.
Yep.
You're not trying to buy wins. You're trying to develop young men through the sport of football. That's what Brent Venables has made an effort to do at Oklahoma. That's what they've done through 2.5 years of his regime, if you will, at the University of Oklahoma, and that's what they'll continue to do.
Yeah. I think a lot of it also has to, you got to give Josie credit on this, right? Like, I think just instead not being reactive and being proactive, I think is a very big piece here. And I think Oklahoma's been accused of being reactive a lot. Like they've been accused of that, particularly when it comes to certain things. And NIL was one of them, but now they're being very much out in the forefront, very much proactive with the move to the SEC, and really wanting to enable all of their athletic programs, sports, to be successful on the NIL front. I think you see the stuff we hear with, Najee Kennedy, right? Like, and I just particularly on the softball front, like that is an NIL deal, and Oklahoma is doing everything they can to make that work, from what we're hearing. Now, does she end up at Oklahoma? We don't know yet, but feels like things are moving in the right direction there. So we'll see where that goes. I Then you got the basketball, right? Like you're starting to see a lot more big names, even on the men's side, like the 25 class, like just in the last 2 weeks, with big visitors on campus that you wouldn't expect Oklahoma, particularly with how things have been going with Porter Moser. But now you're starting to see the NIL aspect of it. You've got the announcement of the new stadium that is they're trying to push for the vote and stuff like that, right? Like again, we'll see.
One of these days.
One of these days, if it happens.
One of these days.
But they keep it public, so it's fresh in the forefront of everybody's mind. So they're doing the right things. We'll just see if it works out in their favor. But I like where everything's heading with Oklahoma NIL, I guess is the long story short. The move to the SEC, before we close this out, July 1st, 3 days away. So many things that are going to be taking place. They just announced everything that's going to happen. You're going to have breakfast with the head coaches at Toby Keith on July 1st, right? If you're in Oklahoma City, or if you're in Tulsa, you'll get Barry Switzer and stuff like that. They'll have big announcements and events on campus. It sounds like, I guess, Feinbaum's going to be in town, right? Doing his stuff from Oklahoma. I think Dari Noka is going to be in Tulsa doing his stuff. And then I don't know who's going to be down in Austin, but this is really cool. I'm sure Dusty Dvorak will be a part of a lot of it with the ESPN crew. They're going to do, I guess, fun and games for kids of all ages. They're going to do a 5K run. Like, they are making a big deal about this, Parker. Like, this is huge, huge for Oklahoma. Like, they are, and I guess it's been since 1996 since this has actually been something to go off of, but 28 years since they've moved to conference. So why not make a big deal about it, right? That's 3 decades ago.
And obviously in 1996, they didn't even really move, right? The conference just kind of expanded. So this is, this is unprecedented. It's obviously something that every single Oklahoma fan, casual or diehard, has been looking forward to for almost 3 years since the initial news was announced. And when it was initially announced, there wasn't any specific timetable cited, so you didn't know how long it was going to be. But July 1st could also be a big day for Oklahoma in more than one capacity, because yes, you're moving to the SEC. Yeah, there are going to be all the festivities. There are going to be 3 decisions that day. 3 decisions.
Who are the 3?
For top 2025 targets that are all going to go down within hours of one another. And OU is in the final 2 for all 3. Since you already spoiled it with Cortez Mills, we'll just start there. Cortez Mills.
I feel bad about it. I thought it was out there in the ether, bro.
It's going to be Clemson or OU. I guess you can't entirely rule out LSU, though that would be a surprise. It feels like it's Clemson or Oklahoma. And again, I think we and others feel as though Oklahoma has the juice right now in that recruitment. Mark Ihenichor, the 3-star linebacker out of Harbor City, California, and a high school teammate of one Jaden O'Neal,
who spent his whole time on OV. Well, Hennichor was on his OV, and while Jaden O'Neal was on his unofficial at Oklahoma, they spent the whole time together.
Ihenichor is going to be deciding between Oklahoma and SMU on July 1st. I feel strongly that if Oklahoma does not get Mark Ihenichor, and there's a chance there, and at that point, if you do get him, you're done at linebacker in the 2025 class for all intents and purposes. But I feel strongly that if they don't get Mark Ihenichor, they will get Christian Jones, the 4-star linebacker from Omaha, Nebraska. That one's going to take a little longer, but I think Oklahoma comes out on top right now. They made a very strong impression on his official visit last weekend. The third decision that is scheduled to occur on July 1st is a decision from Smith Orogbo, the 4-star edge rusher from Alief Hastings High School in Houston. Now, the Max Granville recruitment did not go Oklahoma's way. This one might. Now, the buzz was on Texas Tech for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
From what I've been told by multiple different folks at this point, folks that would know, is that he's not going to be going to Texas Tech. And this is a Red River shootout. This is a battle between Oklahoma and Texas for Orogbo. So, in Oklahoma's defensive end class right now, you have the 2 in-state studs in Alex Shield Knight and CJ Nixon. We expect that they're going to add Cade Petchak, the number 1 prospect in the state of North Dakota. Smith Orogbo could be number 4. Very well could be number 4. And again, much like Afalava, much like Ihenichor, it feels like there are a lot of, like Cortez Bills even, feels like there are a lot of these right now that it's OU and it's one other school, and you don't really know if it's OU or the one other school. Lamont Rogers kind of falls into that same category. But there are several that are coming down to the wire here where Oklahoma is really only battling one contender, and Smith Orogbo's recruitment feels like another one where it's either OU or it's Texas, and maybe we'll have a better idea in the next couple days. But right now, that's kind of up in the air. Regardless, though, if things fall into place, if the stars align just so, July 1st could be a huge day if you're a Sooner fan.
Early fireworks. So I'll just say this. You could have a lot of early fireworks before July 4th if things keep going correctly. And that's not even talking about the 3 that he just mentioned. So I think one name that you need, like Oklahoma and another school would be Asusi as well, right? I think that's because it's essentially down to those 2. He has Texas A&M in there, but I just don't think that they're really. Well, you'd agree with that, right? Like I don't.
They're preoccupied. They're hiring a baseball coach at the moment.
Oh man, that thing looked eerily similar to Lincoln Riley, didn't it?
Boy.
Whoa. Yeah.
Eerily similar.
And all those people that are out there dogging on Oklahoma for years, calling them whatever. Now the Texas A&M fans are backtracking real quick. Well, it was different. No, it's not different. It's the same. It's the same. People lie. Is what it is. Before we go off on this and close out, if I was to, real quick, Trent Wilson, it's a bad mother scuther. Don't do it. Do it. Oh. All right, you got the thumbs up. Yeah, he was awesome today. 23 bench reps.
It's a grown man. I mean, that
he's scary when he's serious. I'm not gonna lie. Like I had to tell him he needed to smile more. He finally did. but he shows up and it's like straight business.
That dude's got some Christmas hams for biceps. I
He
mean,
does.
he is enormous in the
Yes.
upper body.
Yes. Kevin Brown out of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, 2026 offensive lineman. File that name away.
Mm. Or don't, because he's going to Penn State. But
Probably is going to Penn State, but I think Oklahoma is going to try to make a push. And he is very intrigued with Oklahoma if they do offer. They have not offered yet, so we'll see. He has Christmas hams for calves. Those suckers were freaking huge. There is zero skinny jeans on that guy between his calves and his thighs. That's just not happening. Like he was just all legs, all trunk and down. Like that's what he is. He's huge. He's a massive. He's really good too, by the way. Really, really good. Um, if I was to ask you right now, is Lamont Rogers going to Missouri or Oklahoma? I say Oklahoma was.
I would also say Oklahoma.
And I think we can end on that.
I probably should bail on my future cast to Missouri.
Eat it. Just eat it.
I'm going to fade it. How about
Fade
that?
it. Fade it.
I will
Fade it.
designate it as.
Don't put it at Texas.
Oh, God.
No, okay.
Should I really screw with a fan base? Like just throw an
No.
SMU future cast in there.
Oh, that would be hilarious. They would hate you for that. He's evil. He's the evil one, not me. I love you guys. And I love you so much that I want you guys to subscribe to our YouTube channel. So much. Please subscribe to this YouTube channel. We're up to, I want us to get to 16,000 by the season. We only need like 700 more. Can y'all help us out here? 7 more subscribers. Get us to 16,000 before the season. We would love it. We would appreciate it. Thank you so much, Sooner fans that have done that. And also, thank you for those that signed up on OU Insider this week. We ran a promo that you got OU Insider through the first week of fall camp, and we had over 200. How awesome is that? 200 plus. I don't even want to give the number because it could be way more than 200, but we'll just say 200. And you guys are awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you for that. Please continue to sign up on OU Insider. You can go over there right now. It's $9.95 for the whole month. And the month of July is going to be worth it just because you're going to have all the July 1st stuff, right? You're going to have all July. You're going to have the SEC day on July 1st as well with all the potential commits, right? You're going to have other commits that are going to happen within that week and the weeks beyond. And then you're going to have the SEC media days on July 15th. Or not July 15th. Is it July 15th that OU does? Is it 14th?
I believe it is the 16th through the 19th.
16th through 19th. Anyways, the middle of July, SEC Media Days. We'll have that covered for you on OU Insider with a lot of in-depth. We get a lot of buzz talk that we hear throughout the conference and people that we talk to. So it'll all be over there on the VIP stuff, like stuff that we're here. Yes, downvote that. That is bad. Screw you. Give me the upvote. Give me the thumbs up. I didn't like what I had to say. I guess. Anyways, so yeah, do that. In the middle of the week, in the middle of the month, you're going to have all the SEC Media Day. And then at the end of the month, you have the Party in the Palace and Sooners on the Stars. Sooners on the Stars is 27, 28, 26, 27, 28 players will all be in town. They'll do like a little combine, a little camp, and then they'll have a barbecue. And I'm about to drop some notes on some big names that are going to be there at the end of the month. I know OU Insider, one name in particular that is going to surprise some people because OU has a really good shot with him. And let's just say that he was super dominant during the Rivals 5-Star Challenge and may have won an award. So we'll leave it at that. We'll leave a hint there, little hint. But big name. Big name's going to be, and there's going to be some big names also at the Party in the Palace for all the 25 guys. There's going to be commits and some other names that are supposed to be showing up at Party in the Palace that Oklahoma is in on in a big way. So go to OU Insider. We're going to have all that information for you because fall camp rolls around right after that starts, and bam, we're into the season. We're ready to roll. So this is a perfect time to sign up. Give us a chance. Join there's several thousands of OU fans already on there. More than several thousands and thousands of OU fans are on there. and they're talking a lot. You can start your own thread. You can ask us questions. We answer. I do a chat. I'm doing a chat right now where they ask us VIP questions. They ask us NIL questions. They ask us recruiting questions, all that. We answer it for you. And we'll also answer that throughout the week. If you start a thread and you say, hey, BD, hey, Parker, PT, what's happening here with this guy or what's going on with this program with this guy, we'll give you an update. And we're going to have updates on all that's going on behind the scenes as far as softball, transfer portal stuff, basketball recruiting. Brody Lust does an amazing job with that. He's ahead of everybody on everything when it comes to that. And we'll be giving out team information all summer long as far as like who's standing out, who's doing this, who's doing that as far as summer workouts go, who's surprising. All of that will be on OU Insider VIP. So join us $9.95 a month or $99.95 for the whole year. All right. For Parker Thune, my name is Brandon Drum. You guys have a blessed day. We will see you guys on the next podcast.